Hi everyone, my name is Juan Pablo from Español and English Private Tutoring. Today I'm going to talk about what books that don't teach you about present tense, regular verbs, and the preposition a. I'm going to base this information on this book. If you are a student, please follow along. I'm going to mention some pages, take notes on those pages. If you're not a student and you want to learn Spanish with us, please visit our website at espeng.net and register for classes. But this video can also help you understand things that normally books don't explain. Okay, let's start. So if you are a student, please go to page 56 in the book. Here you notice that the book says sing. The present tense is used to express to the English simple present, I sing, and the English present progressive tense, I'm singing. This is incorrect. So this is incorrect because we have progressive tense in Spanish. So present tense, the present tense that you are learning now in chapter 5 is related only to present tense, simple present tense. So if I want to say I sing in Spanish will be yo canto. Okay. If you want to say I am singing, that's progressive tense in English and Spanish will be yo estoy cantando. Cantando. Yo estoy cantando. Now, sometimes simple present can translate into progressive tense in English, but not all the time. Most cases, simple present tense is equal to simple present in English. I sing, yo canto, not I'm singing. So the book is giving you an example here. Ella canta una canción triste. According to the book, I'm going to put a sentence here. Ella canta una canción triste. Canta una canción. Ella canta una canción triste. So according to the book, this has two translations. She sings a sad song, or she's singing a sad song. The correct translation is she sings a sad song, because this is simple present, it's not progressive tense. So make the correction. On page 58, if you go to the verb entrar, I'm going to put it here, entrar, and you in this book, you will notice there is a parenthesis there with the preposition en. The first thing that you need to understand is that prepositions are extremely important in Spanish and the same in English because they can change the meaning of the sentence. Okay, so in English, you can say, you want to say to enter in English, enter in, you have to do it in this way, entrar en, you have to use this preposition. Okay. In English, you can say enter, to enter in, to enter with, to enter for, to enter by, and so on. All of those are different in English. You in example is, you can't say in English, I enter by classroom. I enter by the classroom. Doesn't make sense. I enter the classroom. Okay. So you want to say to enter inside from one place to another. In Spanish, you have to use the preposition en. That's important. Okay. Another thing is that the book is saying that when it comes to the conjugation, you are noticing here in the book that they are only giving you 6 subject pronouns or 6 grammatical persons. They are not including third person singular masculine and feminine, and they are not including third person plural masculine and feminine. The reason why is because second person formal singular and second person plural. Let's start with second person formal singular. Second person formal singular has exactly the same conjugation as third person singular feminine and masculine. Example, if I want to conjugate the verb entrar en, let's just keep it as entrar for now. In second person formal singular would be usted entra. In third person masculine singular will be él entra. And in third person feminine singular will be ella entra. So notice this, entra. Let me see if I can. So entra, entra, and entra. So if you check this, you should notice by now that all of these have exactly the same conjugation, but they are not the same. So let's say that you give me the sentence. Entra entra en la casa a las 10 p.m. So you tell me this in Spanish, it will be confusing. I will not understand you. I will not understand what you're trying to say. Because entre here is confusing. Because I don't know if you are referring to you, to he or she. So in Spanish, it's extremely common to omit the subject of the sentence, not as much as in English. But when it is confusing, you need to include the subject. Example, usted entra. Okay? When I'm adding usted, I'm saying you, I'm not saying he, she. This subject pronoun is clarifying the conjugation of the verb, telling me that I'm talking about you, not about he or she. Now in Spanish, for example, I can say also entro en la casa. I can also say entro en la casa a las 10 p.m. You notice here that this sentence is missing the subject I. Here in English, I'm saying I enter the house at 10 p.m. It's not a very good sentence, but just to give you an example. So the subject pronoun for I in Spanish is yo. Okay? But in this case, I don't need it. In Spanish, I don't need it. I don't have to say I enter. I just need to say enter the house. It's because entro is a very clear conjugation. This is the conjugation for first person singular. In other words, for AR verbs, this is the verb entrar, I take the AR out of the infinitive and change it for a noun, which is what I did here. Okay. This conjugation is unique. This conjugation is only for first person singular. Okay. So because of this conjugation, I already understand that you're referring to I, not to anything else. But with these three here, that doesn't happen. So sometimes you have to give more context when you are saying something in Spanish, especially when you are referring to second person formal, third person masculine and feminine in the singular form. Now, the same happens in the plural forms of second person plural, third person plural, masculine and feminine. Example, ustedes entran, ellos entran, y ellas entran. So the first one is you all enter, they enter, masculine, they, female, enter. So notice here, entran, 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 the same. So if you say this to me in Spanish, entran, if you just say this, I'm not going to understand you at all. If you don't give me more context, I'm not going to understand. Okay? So in this case, because it is confusing, you have to include the subject. So it will be ellos entran. So here I'm not saying you all enter, I'm saying they enter. Good. Now, when it comes to the book, the reason why the book is omitting the third person plural and masculine for the verb conjugation is because of this reason. Because second person and third person have the same conjugation. Now, when you want to know how to conjugate verbs, it's better for you to go to page 57, where you will see all the subject pronouns. Now let's go to page 60. According to the book, the preposition a equals to in English. That is correct, but not always. It's something that book doesn't explain. So please take notes on page 60. To in English can have different meanings. And for this reason, different translations into Spanish. For example, in English, it can say, I want to eat. To eat. To, in this case, in English, is not a preposition. It's an auxiliary word telling me that the verb eat is in the infinitive form. This is a grammatical rule that you have in English, but we don't have that in Spanish. We don't have that in Spanish. So if I want to say in Spanish, I want to eat, it will be yo quiero comer. Yo quiero comer. So in English, you say, I want to eat 4 words. In Spanish, if you check, it's only 3. That means that 2, in this case, 2, in English doesn't translate at all into Spanish because we don't have auxiliary words for infinitive verbs. All infinitive verbs in Spanish end on either ER, AR, or IR. Now, what if I want to say, she needs to work to make money? She needs to work to make money. To work is an auxiliary word. To make money, in this case, to make money, the second to is not an auxiliary word, it's a preposition. So in other words, in English, you can say, she needs to work in order to make money. So if to in English is a synonym of in order to, in Spanish, it would translate as para. So the sentence that I gave you, she needs to work to make money. Ella necesita trabajar para hacer dinero. Bueno, eso no me está ayudando, pero this is not helping. Necesita. Ella necesita trabajar para hacer dinero. Ella necesita trabajar para hacer dinero. Para. To make money. To make money or in order to make money. Now, let's go with another sentence. She's going to Madrid tomorrow. She's going to Madrid tomorrow. So to in this case is a preposition. In this case, I can't say in order to. She's going in order to Madrid. Doesn't make sense in English. So this case, to has a different meaning in English. In this case, I'm using the preposition to indicate movement from one place to another. So this is extremely common with verbs of movement, like the verb to go. So if to equals movement, then in Spanish, it will translate as a. Or the sentence that I gave you. She's going to Madrid tomorrow. Ella está yendo. Ella va a ir a Madrid mañana. I'm going to change the sentence to make it better. So she's going to go to Madrid tomorrow. She's going to go to Madrid tomorrow. Well, this here is another way we use the preposition a, which I'm going to explain soon. She's going to go to Madrid tomorrow. She's going to go to Madrid tomorrow. So this to here is indicating movement from one place to another. Now, look at this. This is something you have learned already, or we haven't. Let me see. You're a student. Yes, you haven't learned. Let's see. Yes. Okay, so I'm going to explain this. This is another way we use the preposition are. Let's see if I can point this out somehow. This is using the formula ir plus a plus verb in the infinitive. Okay. And I apologize if I make spelling mistakes since English is my second language. And I'm having problems here with this application. It's not correcting. Okay. It's not correcting. Well, so this formula here, ir plus a plus verb in the infinitive. This formula is something we will learn later. Is used to express the immediate future in Spanish. Okay, so futuro inmediato is called in Spanish. Immediate future. Futuro inmediato. Immediate future. Which in English is I'm going to go to my house now. Okay. In this case, I'm going to, if I say to you, I'm going to go to my house, I don't think you would understand it as I'm going to go to my house in 2 years. If I say I'm going to go to my house, you would understand it as I'm going to go soon, not in 2 years. This is why it's called immediate future. Now, there are exceptions to this. If you give me more context, it could be in 2 years, but without more information, it's understood that is in the near future. If you want to do that, you use this formula in Spanish. The verb ir conjugated accordingly, the preposition a, and then another verb in the infinitive, which is what we have here. Ella va a ir. Now, here is another way to translate as a in Spanish, which is not related to movement. So another way will be, for example, she wants to give a gift to Juan. I'm going to put it here. Ella le quiere dar un regalo a Juan. This is advanced grammar, and I'm going to go into this too yet. But I'm going to explain quickly. Ella le quiere dar un regalo a Juan. She wants to give a gift to Juan. To Juan doesn't indicate movement in English. To Juan in English is the indirect object of the sentence. What is an indirect object? Indirect object is the part of the sentence that receives the action of the main verb indirectly. So, when I say in English, she wants to give a gift, the verb to give falls directly on the word give. regalo. A gift, which is the direct object. And falls indirectly, the verb to give falls indirectly into one. So whenever you have an indirect object in the sentence, to Juan, which is the indirect object, to in this case will translate as a. Very good. And this is all for now. You have any more questions? If you have any questions, please leave them on the comments. If you're a student, you know what to do. If you leave them in the comments, we will try to get back to you as soon as possible. So next, let's go to page 66. On page 66, they are teaching you the verb llevar. According to the book, the verb llevar means to carry or to wear. But be careful with the verb to carry. Okay? Because in English, you can say, she took her pen to math class yesterday. Just a simple sentence. She took her pen with her to math class. In Spanish, this will translate this way. Ella llevó su lapicero a la clase de matemáticas ayer. Se llevó su lapicero a la clase de matemáticas ayer. She took her pen. Now, in this case, llevar is not translating as to carry in English. It's translating as to take. But in English, you may say also, she carry her pen. Well, maybe to carry here will make sense. So a better way to explain it is that llevar can mean to take when you take an object, person, an animal from one place to another. So in this case, llevar can also translate as to take. The problem here is that to take in English can translate in many different ways. Can have different meanings. For example, I can say she took a lot of time to get home. In this case, to take doesn't mean to carry, doesn't mean to grab something and take it from one place to another. If to take is not related to grabbing something and taking it from one place to another, it will translate in a different way. So she took a lot of time. Yeah. Ella se demoró. It took a lot of time to go home yesterday. Ella se demoró demasiado para ir a casa ayer. So the verb is completely different, and the meaning is completely different. So be careful with the verb to take. Other than that, whenever you use to carry, it will translate as llevar. And to wear is correct. You can use the verb llevar as a second meaning as to wear. And maybe I can give you an example for that. So, ella lleva una chaqueta roja. Ella lleva una chaqueta roja. She's wearing a red jacket. And this is an example where simple present Spanish will translate as progressive tense in English, because progressive tense in English can be in different ways. But in Spanish, we use progressive tense in a very precise way. In Spanish, we use a progressive tense to indicate an action that, if it is present progressive, that is happening now and continues happening. But in this case, we are using present tense. If I say she wears a red jacket. And that's correct in Spanish. We use simple present for that. So llevar, as I explained, can translate into three ways: to take, to carry, and to wear. Let's go with the verb to pass on page 66. And let me increase the size for this. Okay, to pass means pasar. Now, the book says that pasar translates into English as to pass by, to happen, to spend time. But be careful, because in English, you can say to pass by, to pass in, to pass for, to pass behind. You can use different prepositions with the verb to pass in English. And that will change the meaning of the idea of the sentence. It's the same in Spanish. You want to say to pass by in Spanish precisely, you have to say to pasar por. You have to use a preposition por. You want to say to pass by, you have to use a preposition por. And I'm going to give you examples with this verb. Now, what the book is teaching you here is extremely simplified. Some of these verbs can have up to 60 different and not even 60 different meanings, not even including expressions. For that reason, they may have up to 60 different translations into English. But we are not going to go into that at this moment. Maybe later I will go deeper into this. But for now, we are just learning the meaning of these verbs in a simple way. So, pasar por. Ella pasó por la casa ayer. Ella pasó por la casa ayer. She passed by the house yesterday. By, in this case. What if I want to say to happen? So, pasar as to happen will be a ella no le pasó nada en el accidente. A ella no le pasó nada en el accidente. Notice that I'm using past tense here because it makes more sense, or it's easier to create these sentences and explain them, but past tense is something we have learned. A ella no le pasó nada en el accidente. Nothing happened to her in the accident. And I'm going to give you an example as to past time. Ella siempre pasa mucho tiempo estudiando. Ella siempre, ella siempre pasa mucho tiempo estudiando. Estudiando. Ella siempre pasa mucho estudiando. This is related to time only, to past time. She always spends a lot of time studying. Another verb that I want to explain is on page 67. And that is the verb tomar. Tomar, according to the book, means to take, to have something to drink, to have breakfast, lunch, or dinner. That is correct. But remember, to take in English can have different meanings. In this, if you want to translate it as tomar, to take has to be a synonym of to grab something or someone. Okay? Example, ella lo tomó de la mano ayer. Ella lo tomó de la mano ayer. She took his hand yesterday. Is to take in this case, or it's like saying, she grabbed his hand yesterday. To have something to drink, I'm going to give you an example. Ellos toman mucha agua. Ellos toman mucha agua. This in English is to drink. They drink a lot of water. And the third one will be to have breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Oh, now, this is a mistake in the book. We only say to have breakfast. We don't say to have lunch or to have dinner. So I'm going to give you an example with to have breakfast. Ellos toman su desayuno a las 11 de la mañana. Bueno, ellas toman su desayuno a las 11 de la mañana. Ellas toman su desayuno a las 11 de la mañana. In English, this is they have breakfast. at 11 in the morning. So this is correct. But what if I want to say they have lunch at noon? For lunch, for to have lunch, we have a verb for that, which you don't have in English. The verb we use for that will be almorzar. Almorzar. So if I want to say to have lunch, I'm not going to use the verb tomar for this. I'm going to use the verb almorzar. Example. Ellas almuerzan. I'm going to use the same example. Ellas almuerzan. Ellas almuerzan a las. This doesn't make sense. Ellas almuerzan al mediodía. Ellas almuerzan al mediodía. They have lunch at noon. That's what we are saying. As I said before, we also don't say they have dinner because we have a verb for that. We have cenar. That's the verb for dinner, to have dinner. If I want to say to have dinner, it would be this way. Ellas cenan a las 7 de la noche. Ellas cenan a las 7 de la noche. Now, let's go back to the third example. They have breakfast at 11 in the morning. The thing here is that we also have a verb for to have breakfast. And that will be the verb desayunar. 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 So the third one, I can also say it in a different way. Here. Ellas desayunan a las 11 de la mañana. So that's that on page 67. Remember to take notes. So the example they are giving you there in the book is incorrect. And let's correct that mistake. They are saying, toma el almuerzo a la 1 y la cena a las 7. So I'm going to put the example they are giving you in the book, and I'm going to explain why is wrong. So I'm going to put it here. Toma el almuerzo a la 1 y la cena a las 7. Toma el almuerzo a la 1 y la cena a las 7. So here, the first, there is a mistake that I already explained. If you say this sentence to me, it's going to be confusing. Now, try to remember why this sentence is confusing. If you want, pause the video and try to figure it out and then continue with the video once you're ready. So, Toma here is confusing because this conjugation can refer to second person formal singular or third person singular masculine or feminine. So you tell me this, I don't know you are referring to you, to he or she. So you have to explain better and include the subject in the sentence. So it will be, let's say, él. This will be our better sentence. He drinks, he has lunch. Now, here is the other mistake, which I already explained. Try to figure out why this is wrong. Again, pause the video, you need to, and then continue once you're ready. In this case, we don't say, remember, we don't say to have lunch. We have a verb for this. So it will be él almuerza a la una. Now, here is the next mistake. In Spanish, we don't say to have dinner. So try to remember what we say instead. Okay, going to continue, so it will be cena. Okay. Él almuerza a la una y cena a las 7. He has lunch at 1 and dinner at 7. So make that correct that mistake in the book on page 67. Let's go now to exercise 5.5. The first question. So the first question says this. ¿A qué hora blank? I'm going to give you the answer. Ustedes el almuerzo. In this case, I'm going to give you a clue. They are asking you to use the verb tomar. You can use the translator for this, try to figure it out, pause the video, and then tell me why this is wrong. Try to understand why the sentence is wrong. And once you're ready, continue with the video. Okay, I'm going to explain now. So, ¿a qué hora blank? You have to use the verb tomar ustedes el almuerzo. So the mistake here is that, remember, we don't say to have lunch. So let's change the sentence to make it better. If we have to use the verb tomar here, what do we have to say here? I'm going to tell you el desayuno. So change this from almuerzo to desayuno. The correct answer here was the videos if you haven't conjugated the verb, but this is the answer. ¿A qué hora toman ustedes el desayuno? Yeah, let's go with the second one. The following is the sentence the book is giving. So, la niña está triste porque no sorry, no está triste, no, está enferma. Enferma. Porque no, blank, una chaqueta en el invierno. Una chaqueta en el invierno. Está enferma porque no, una chaqueta en el invierno. Try to figure out what is this in English. And once you're ready, continue with the video. And I'm going to give you a clue here. Here, you should be using the verb llevar. So in English, this means the child is sick because she doesn't wear a jacket in winter. This is something you say in English, but we don't say this in Spanish. Because the verb to be or the verb estar, remember that the verb to be can be translated in two ways into Spanish. It could be ser or estar. In this case, the verb estar, we're using the verb estar to talk about health. Okay. If the verb estar is used for to talk about health, mood, or temporary conditions, you have to be careful. And this should be on page 15 and 16 in the book if you're a student, and you should take notes about this on page 15, because this is something the book doesn't explain. Or page 16, better. So when we use the verb start this way, we have to talk about precise tense. We can use general ideas. So the child is sick because she doesn't wear a jacket in winter. Winter is a very broad time. It's not precise. So we wouldn't say that in Spanish. If you want to use start here, we have to change the sentence to indicate something more precise, a more precise time frame. So let's change the sentence to la niña una chaqueta de color rosa. Okay, I'm going to give you an example with start. You decide which sentence to use, but in this case, we have to use the verb llevar. So this sentence will not work at all with the verb start here. I'm going to explain why soon. But let's change it for now to this. La niña, blank, una chaqueta de color rosa. Chaqueta de color rosa. Okay. Since the book is asking you to use the verb llevar, this is a better sentence, so change it and pause the video before you see the answer. This case will be lleva. Me lleva una chaqueta de color rosa. Now, the last sentence we had, which was this one. La niña está enferma porque no blank Una chaqueta en invierno. Una chaqueta en invierno. Ah, enferma. Porque chaqueta en. So how can we improve this sentence? As I said, the verb start needs to be used with more precise terms. So to make it better, I can add a better time frame. La niña está enferma hoy, porque no se puso una chaqueta en el invierno. La niña está enferma. So this sentence, to make it better, to use the verb start if you want to use the verb start for this sentence, it will not be related to what the book is asking you to do, which is use the verb llevar. But I'm giving you just an example of how to use the verb start here, so you can use it. So, la niña está enferma hoy porque no se puso una chaqueta en el invierno. The child is sick today because she didn't wear a jacket in the winter. Okay. This is more complex here. If you are using past tense for to wear, you have to use the verb poner. Ponerse, which is reflexive. I'm not going to explain this now because it's more advanced, but later on you may learn about this. If you're a student, you will definitely learn about this. If you want to become a student, you can go to our website at espeng.net. All the information is in the description. So, la niña está enferma hoy porque no se puso una chaqueta en invierno. So, in past tense, we have to use a different verb, ponerse. Now, notice here that I'm saying today. This is a more precise time. Okay. And now, here, I'm using the past tense to say that she didn't wear a jacket one time in winter. And I'm saying she doesn't always wear a jacket. Or I'm not saying in winter she never wears a jacket. That's more too general. Here I'm saying that one time in winter she didn't wear the jacket. Then in that case you can use the verb start because it's more precise. You want to make this sentence more general, like what the book is doing, you have to change the verb. So, la niña está enferma porque no una chaqueta, no una chaqueta en el invierno. Okay, so the child is sick because she doesn't wear a jacket in winter. It's not one time in winter, it's every time in winter. So here we cannot use the verb start, so we have to change the verb. La niña porque una chaqueta en el invierno. La niña se enferma Se enfermó. Pueden corregir. La niña se enfermó porque no. La niña se enferma siempre, siempre nunca, porque nunca lleva, nunca se pone una chaqueta en el invierno. La niña se enferma siempre porque nunca se pone una chaqueta en el invierno. The child gets sick all the time because she doesn't wear a jacket in the winter. So in Spanish, you have to specify better that this is a general idea, not a. This is a way to explain to the listener that you are talking about always, not just one time. If it is one time, you have to use the verb start in the way that I explained. Let's go with the sixth one in the book. I'm going to give you the sentence here. Is yo blank los bolígrafos y lápices en la clase de matemáticas. Los bolígrafos y 3 lápices a la clase de matemáticas. Remember to make corrections if you're a student and take notes in your book. So, yo, 2 bolígrafos y 3 lápices a la clase de matemáticas. So try to figure it out before I give you the answer. Pause the video. Okay, now I'm going to give you the answer. I take 2 pens and 3 pencils to math class, which is not a bad sentence, but it would be better if you say, I always take 2 pens and 3 pencils to math class. So to improve it in Spanish, which is the same idea in Spanish, you add a transition word, siempre. Okay. Yo siempre, that would be a better sentence. I always take 2 pens and 3 pencils to math class. And I'm going to help you here with this one. Try to figure out what verb you should use. I always take. Remember to take from one place to another. It will be llevo. Yo siempre llevo 2 bolígrafos y 3 lápices de la clase de matemáticas. And that was it for today. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments and we will try to get back to you as soon as possible. If you are a student, you know what to do. You have questions, you can ask during class. If you are a student, remember to take notes since we will keep asking this during classes. Okay, thank you for watching. If you like this video, give it a like, make a comment, and see you next time. Bye-bye.